I've lived alone for about a year now. It's a little house in a quiet neighborhood, and honestly, it's not the kind of place where I expected anything strange to happen. Just me, working my regular hours, coming home to relax and repeat. But recently, I had an experience I can't shake off. It happened about 2 weeks ago, and even now, thinking about it sends a chill down my spine. It was a Tuesday night. Nothing unusual about it, just came home, microwaved some leftovers, and plopped on the couch to watch some TV. My house is small, so from the couch I can see the kitchen door, which leads out to my backyard. I was scrolling on my phone when I felt like something wasn't right, but I brushed it off. Probably just tired from work, I thought. Later, when I went to bed, I felt that uneasy feeling again. I was lying there in the dark and kept thinking I'd forgotten to lock the back door. I told myself to just get up and check. I got up, half asleep, went to the kitchen, and saw that the door was locked. But as I turned to go back to my room, I thought I saw something out of the corner of my eye through the kitchen window. It was quick, like a shadow, and it could have been anything. A trick of the light, maybe even a stray cat. But it got my heart pounding, and I stood there for a minute, staring out the window just in case. I didn't see anything else, so I told myself I was overreacting and went back to bed. Eventually, I fell asleep. The next night, though, the same feeling crept up on me. I got home late, made dinner, and just had this overwhelming sense that I wasn't alone. I checked all the doors and windows before heading to bed, telling myself I was just paranoid. But at around midnight, I woke up to what sounded like shuffling downstairs. It was faint, almost like someone moving quietly. I tried to brush it off, maybe the house settling or some weird plumbing issue, but the sound kept going. I lay there, straining my ears to make sure I wasn't hearing things. It went silent, and I was so tense I couldn't sleep for hours. The next day, I tried to convince myself it was all in my head. I went to work, but when I came back home, there was this weird feeling again. I walked around the house, checking every room, making sure everything was where it should be. That night, as I was brushing my teeth, I noticed my bathroom window was cracked open. I know for a fact I didn't leave it like that because I hardly ever open it. It's one of those small, high-up windows that nobody really pays attention to, but I remembered locking it. I tried to convince myself I must have forgotten, but it nagged at me. By this point, I was on edge every night. Then one evening, I found something that made my blood run cold. I was checking the windows like I'd started doing, and when I got to the back door, I saw faint marks on the doorknob. At first, I thought it was dirt, but then I realized it was smudged, like someone had tried turning it from the outside. I was freaking out, but I couldn't think of anyone who would want to mess with me like this. It wasn't enough to call the cops, just some smudges after all. But it felt wrong. I stayed up that night, barely sleeping, listening for anything out of place. The next day, I went to the hardware store and bought one of those heavy-duty locks for the back door. I was getting paranoid, feeling like someone had been trying to get in, even if I had no proof. I installed it, double-checked all the windows, and finally felt a bit safer. A few days went by and things seemed normal again, but last night it got worse. I was asleep when I woke up to the sound of footsteps. Very quiet, but definitely footsteps, moving across the living room. I was frozen. I didn't know if I should call the cops or just stay quiet. I grabbed my phone and tried to be as silent as possible, dialing 911. While I waited, I heard the footsteps again, and then a faint creak on the stairs. My heart was racing so fast I thought I was going to pass out. The operator was whispering for me to stay calm, saying officers were on their way, but it felt like hours before I heard the sirens. The footsteps stopped, and I couldn't tell if the person was still inside or had heard the sirens. When the cops arrived, they searched the house from top to bottom, but they didn't find anyone. I told them everything, even showed them the smudges on the doorknob, but without any other evidence, they couldn't do much. They suggested maybe I'd been dreaming, or it was all in my head, but I know what I heard. Now I'm staying with a friend for a bit because I can't shake the feeling that someone was there, in my house, watching me. And every time I think about going back, I remember those footsteps and feel that same fear creeping back up.